My name is Tyler Jacinto, and today I will be talking to you about premarital agreements that pertain to California law. So my major claim is that having a premarital agreement will make your divorce easier. You will end up spending less money. There's no confusion of what is your own, and premarital agreements are impenetrable. So divorces can get really ugly. Both my parents are lawyers, and my dad's actually a family law specialist. So they both told me at a young age that divorce could get very ugly and out of hand real quickly. And I've also seen firsthand how ugly a divorce and hard a divorce could be with my parents in 2015. So it's my firm belief that having a premarital agreement will make your divorce process easier. So on to my first topic, you will end up spending less money, which will make your divorce easier. Divorces cost a lot of money. Lawyers are not cheap. In California, divorce involved child custody and support issues. The average cost is about $26,300. Compared to these numbers, the divorce without children in California, the average cost dropped to $17,100. So that is a lot of money. I do believe the average paycheck in California for a whole year is about $50,000 to $60,000. So that could be up to a third of your paycheck. And the cost of a premarital agreement is very cheap, well, a lot cheaper than getting a divorce. So I talked to my dad, Ross Jacinto, who is a family law specialist and does about 5 premarital agreements a week. And he said premarital agreements usually cost $5,000 to $7,000, and they could be higher or lower. So this is a lot of money that you could save, and will ultimately lead to an easier divorce process. So there's no confusion of what you have and what you don't have. So with a premarital agreement, you're basically planning out your divorce and how it will play out. So with a prenup, you can bypass a lot of laws by agreeing yourselves on who will get what. While some states prohibit it, other states even allow you to decide whether you will be entitled to alimony or not. So since we live in California, you're allowed to state separate property, community property, spousal support, and spousal support could be included into your prenup. So separate property is whatever is in your name, you will keep after the marriage. And that is a lot easier because you're not splitting things apart. You can't have community property and you know what you guys have to split up, so you could either buy one person out or you could sell it. And spousal support could be also included in for, I don't know, there could be a range of years that it could be in and an amount of numbers, just depending on how much you make at the time. So the only thing that you'd have to figure out is child custody, and a prenup cannot include child custody. So you'd have to figure that out after your marriage with your spouse or your ex-spouse. So premarital agreements are impenetrable. This will make divorce a lot easier because there's no point in fighting it. So we all know the famous baseball player Barry Bonds, right? So he got a prenup, but well, I'll just read you my quote. Prior to getting married, Bonds asked Son to sign a premarital agreement that waived any interest in his earnings and acquisitions during marriage. Son signed the agreement despite not having a lawyer present. While Bonds was represented by an attorney, Son sued to have the premarital agreement ruled invalid. Son argued that because she did not have a lawyer present at the time she signed the agreement, it was unenforceable and demanded more money for both spousal and child support. This ruling was appealed all the way up to California Supreme Court, found that the prenuptial agreement be valid, deciding in favor of Barry Bonds. So after the case, there's 4 changes to premarital agreements that ultimately strengthened them. So you have to have your own representation. You receive at least 7 days to review and sign the premarital agreement. You have the legal capacity to sign, and you sign without any fraud, duress, or under any influence. So I talked to my dad about, or who has done many of these. He said that premarital agreements are rarely overturned. The only way that it gets overturned is if the guidelines are not properly used, and if one person comes out of the marriage with nothing, then there's a problem. So usually lawyers would add spousal support for 1 to 2 years into the agreement. This way it ensures people that they will get something out of the marriage. And yeah. So also infidelity is not punishable in California. California courts are not supposed to consider infidelity or any fault when getting a divorce. So if you were to cheat on your wife, she cannot overturn your premarital agreement. It will still stay valid. So having a premarital agreement will make your divorce a lot easier. You'll end up spending less money, which will make you and your ex a lot happier. You'll have an understanding before marriage of what is yours and what is not, and what you have to split. This is a lot easier than arguing about who gets what and whatnot. And finally, premarital agreements are basically impenetrable and should lead to a quick and easy divorce. Thank you for your time.
The proposition's clearly identified. I'm not sure how much controversy there is on the subject. It sounds like it's almost self-defining. There's not a preview of what the supporting structure is going to be, so that's a little bit of a problem at the beginning of the speech. In the body of the speech, you start off with a clear label of what the first supporting point is going to be. I think that you also have some ideas here about what the secondary issues are going to be. I did hear them being labeled. I didn't necessarily see a numerical signpost, but I kind of could follow what you were saying there, which I think is perfectly fine. When you had the average cost of divorce, either with or without kids, there's no source citation on that. There were sources on most of your other information. I think that you want to be consistent on that. And you are using a personal source a little bit because you have a lawyer in the family that can give you some information, which is not a bad thing, but we have to make sure that such information is available to other people who have to respond to it. The notion that these proceedings are impenetrable, you use the example of the Barry Bonds case. I think that that's perfectly reasonable. The follow-up is, that personal information again that says that they're rarely overturned, and we don't, nobody has any way of validating that at this particular point, so the person who's doing the refutation is going to have to be on top of it and do some extra work to dig out and see if that information is correct and accurate. I think you do a nice job building credibility, talking about personal experience and information that you have as a result of the life that you've led. I think that's perfectly fine. One of the things that people are going to have to consider, of course, is that how often do marriages end in divorce? If marriages end in divorce frequently, then the likelihood that you're going to save money is pretty good. On the other hand, if everybody got these premarital agreements and it cost them $7,000 each and only half of the people got divorced, then there are a lot of people who are getting a raw deal on that didn't have to pay $7,000 that ended up doing so ahead of time. So it's an interesting conundrum that you have. Maybe some additional information about how frequently divorces happen and how long people are married would help make this argument, since you're making an economic argument, a little bit more easy to calculate and break it down by some numbers there. All right, thank you.